Hello everyone, welcome back to CryptoCache. Thank you so much for joining me here. Hope you're having an amazing day. Happy Saturday to you. We made it to the weekend, right? So time to relax, take it easy, and not stress about the crypto market. But we do want to look at Bitcoin and see generally what the status is here so far. It's been quite an interesting last 48 hours. And it's finally calming down a little bit. And we'll take a look at that, of course, here. Kind of more so micro. I covered the macro yesterday, and moving forward, we'll be covering the macro pretty much weekly as well for my community, and just in general, making sure that we understand, the big picture here and how much lower it could possibly go. Good thing is here, kind of throwing it out there, we got a nice little strong support channel here in this range between about 33,000 and about 35. So 33 to 35, we should experience some resistance to the downside, whereas the price action should not just catapult much lower, right? Again, that's more so the immediate future, and we could very well see a bounce back here off 35 and or even 36 in the immediate future as well, to come up and test maybe 37, 38,000, somewhere in that range there. Okay, so wouldn't put it past it to have a nice potential little relief rally this week, but again, a little too early to say. Everything's pointing down. Now, if you are new to the channel, not a financial advisor, I hope you can learn something here today. Please consider becoming a community member, CryptoCache.tech, if you want to learn how to become a better trader. Pretty much just trade the same way that I do. Most are successful in this sense, but I'm a kind of a patient trader. I don't go too crazy, if that makes sense. Anyways, check that out in your own time. I send out signals for every single trade that I take if you're curious about how I structure my trades. Taking a look here, though, at Bitcoin. Let's start kind of with the obvious. In fact, why don't we go ahead and start with the monthly. I know I mentioned we wouldn't go into detail here, but I do just want to touch on the simple fact that, anytime the price previously has, in fact, why don't we look at this other chart to kind of get a better perspective. You can see anytime the price is below the 20-day SMA, you have a tendency of significant downside. In other words, if we look from before, from the top to bottom, it put us roughly about a 50 to 60% correction. All right, so as soon as you see we broke down below here, so far we're at about 20%. There is potential for, again, a $20,000 price point or even lower. So again, we just got to throw it out there and simply understand that there's potential. Doesn't mean it's necessarily going to happen. Okay, so just keep that in mind. But once again, this is never truly a great sign to be under the 20-day SMA on the larger time frames. Okay, specifically the monthly. Let's go ahead and jump right into the daily here and kind of see what's going on. Pretty standard stuff. We got rejected off of 50 in the RSI with this last pump right after the Fed meeting, and of course a major dump. And that's pretty common for the Fed meeting. A lot of times you'll see an increase or decrease in a crazy direction, and then it just ramps back up the other way. The last two times it went down and then up inevitably. Now we're experiencing the inverse, where it went up initially and now inevitable downside. Okay, so again, not to say that this is going to continue forever, but there is a strong likelihood that we'll be at the very least range bound between 33 and 37 for the next couple of weeks, maybe even a month or two, just based on the overall sense of how the moving averages are working out. What I mean by that is that we're obviously getting held down by the 20. You can see the 20 is kind of working as a concurrent with this trend line. So the 20 is holding the price action in place until we can get back above that. I don't think we have a leg to stand on. And then, of course, we've got the 50 and the 200 working their way down. And it's notoriously, disadvantageous when you have, the 200 above the 50. So generally speaking, again, it's not going to last forever. I don't think we're going to see years of downside. We're probably only going to see a few months, but those months are likely started already, and we're going to see that continue for perhaps another month or two. Maybe even longer. There's potential there. So we just kind of got to be okay and come to terms with the fact that we shouldn't expect the market to recover right away, because everything is really screaming downside for the moment. Okay. So again, reject off the 50. We've got a MACD divergence, pretty much just a rejection, if you will. So we lost any potential momentum we had. We did not establish higher highs, which is a key indicator of really seeing a turnaround, or at the very least, potential breakout. And in this case, we do not see that. Okay. Now, it's going to be a little while before we can start making higher highs and higher lows, at least on the daily, I feel. So again, I wouldn't be expecting a lot. And of course here, right at about 37,500, 37.5 is a round number, you can see there was a lot of support. The price action didn't want to pass down below that for about 5 days. and it was even tested an extra 6 day and of course previously as well. So 37.5 is a point of contention. That is now the official resistance level. There's also a lot of volume too at that price point just above. So if we look at just say this year's worth of volume, you can see the most amount of volume accumulation between 38.5 and 39,000. So that's going to create a resistance shelf here. So just keep in mind, the price comes back up to 37.5. Try not to get your hopes up. That will likely reject and continue back down lower until we get a significant closure above 40,000. There's literally no reason to get excited. And even at 40,000, we shouldn't even be all that excited because we still have a lot of key level resistances, such as 44,000 here, where you can see the price action spent the most amount of time and got rejected quite a few times, only to break above and get slammed back down here as well. So a lot of these little things are kind of just telling us that, hey, we've got some potential for downside further. But if the price were to recover, we still are not out of the woods yet. All right. So just try not to be one of those folks that just, you see a green day, for example, like we saw here a couple of days ago, and you get super excited, you go all in. Don't do that. That's not the way to go right now. That's not how you survive this market. All right. Again, that's the daily. Look at the 4 hour here. Let's go ahead and switch gears here and kind of see. We're below all moving averages. And honestly, until you can get above at least 1, 2, or 3 moving averages on either the daily or the 4 hour, it's pretty much telling you that you're not on the right side of the tracks and we should expect the price to continue to go the other direction. Yes, we'll see little pumps here and there, and yes, we'll see little corrections. Of course, that's the nature of cryptocurrency or trading in general. But for the moment, being under all moving averages here is essentially disadvantageous. We do not like to see that. All right. One thing we do need to understand too, though, is that the RSI is hanging out at 30, and it has for some time. What that basically is telling us is that there is potential for an increase, potentially even likely this week, based on the simple sense that we should expect to see a little bit of recovery, but I wouldn't say it would be a lot. Because again, everything goes up and down, right? It's not just going to keep going down in a straight line. So the likelihood of the price action coming here and trying to come up to maybe test 37 or 38,000, I think is fairly high. Again, how soon will that happen? It's hard to say. The longer we spend down here closer to 30, the more average the price becomes, and the price can slowly just continue to bleed out. Again, we have somewhat of a support level here from previous one-day candlestick closes at about 35,000. That should count for something. I don't think we'll see 35,000. We'll probably see it tested again, but I don't think we'll break below in the immediate future, but I do think inevitably we could. And you got to understand too here as well that the bears are losing that momentum. So it's a significant push to the downside is slowly coming to an end, and whether or not this either this closes or kind of intersects, so to speak, is irrelevant. What's relevant is the simple fact that we're overextended for the moment, and some kind of reprieve is due. We should expect to see a little bit of a correction back to the upside here. But over the weekend, you may not expect much because of the fact that it's there's low volume, okay? And price action moves different with low volume. So I'm willing to speculate we're going to see some increase in price early in the week as far as the trading week is concerned, Monday, late Sunday night, early Monday. And then, of course, perhaps another fake out where we come up to test this trend line and the price comes back down. There's a strong chance of that, again, just based on a lot of the moving averages and everything that we see here so far. All right, so once again, not looking amazing, I guess, for the best way to describe it. Look at the 1 hour too. Look, we're still well below the clouds, so this is just another confirmation, kind of telling us that hey, a long position is not necessarily the greatest call. There are some coins right now, and in fact, we opened a long position last night with my trading community, and what we did is basically it was a specific coin that really looks like it's doing much better and working contrary to it, because there are some coins right now that are still doing well. So not to say that all long positions are a bad idea, and truly we haven't found the bottom yet, but with how much movement we've seen here so far, there's a great chance that this should be the tentative bottom. All right, and in that sense, a potential for an increase here soon based on that sentiment. Again, you can only hold something down for so long before it surfaces again, at the very least to try to establish a new high or potentially a new higher low. Again, all theoretical at this point, but for the most part we're underneath basically both leads on the cloud, and that's really just telling us that hey, we got no confirmation here. If you do have a short position, you may want to consider closing it due to the sense that the price may not continue much lower. It's basically just what the cloud is telling us though. And again, there's no guarantees in this guy, but you are going to, statistically be more successful if you, take a long position when you've broken this line up here, this upper lead, and the inverse applies as well for the downtrend too. So right now we're kind of in that state where the price is going to come into the cloud, considered a no buy zone, and we essentially just got to wait for it to figure out which direction it wants to head. All right. But all I ask is that you do not get super excited if we see an increase on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, any of that sort, because there is a good chance we'll see some type of slight recovery. It may even be quite significant to try to retest 40,000. You never truly know, but we need to kind of take it in stride and go day by day, and not just go crazy bonkers all in as soon as we get some kind of green day. That's all I'm asking, because I get some folks ask me like, hey, are we bullish again? We had a 5% close. No, not at all. We've got a lot of things to get ahead. And if you learned anything from this video, I hope that you learned that we want to wait for confirmation. And confirmation to me is the most important. We don't have confirmation here. It does look like it wants to continue down lower. How much lower will it go right now, being as overextended as it is? Probably not much lower in the immediate future. But again, few days, few weeks down the road, we could very well see a price point in the 30 to 33,000 range, or possibly and likely initially we're going to see some support if the price travels below 35,000, somewhere between 33 and 35. So I would say that's a great place to start dollar cost averaging. Even now too, don't get me wrong, I've added to my position at 36.2. I got in luckily with a 35.5 fill, and I like adding to my bags at sub 40,000. That's just me personally. But big picture, again, later down the road, supply and demand, Bitcoin's going to be worth a lot more than 35,000. So I would just recommend dollar cost averaging wherever possible. But again, if you have a portfolio that you're only day trading with and you don't have any type of hodl position, first of all, that's you want to change that, I would say. But generally speaking, depending on your overall trading dynamic, how you trade and what your overall picture is how you're going to want to invest. So again, dollar cost average based on your risk tolerance. Those are things that I do teach, of course, in my trading academy. So make sure to check that out. But I'm just trying to, I want to make sure that you find the best benefit here. And, Bitcoin hasn't found its bottom yet, right? But we have to be getting close. There's got to be some kind of area where we're going to be feeling comfortable that it's going to come back around. We're not quite there yet. Again, no confirmation, yada, yada. All right, so instead of speaking in circles, I'm just going to go ahead and conclude this. I hope you've learned something here today. Once again, happy Saturday. Have a great weekend. And, again, try not to worry about the progression here. This is a positive thing in the overall sense. If you think about the fact that we have a much better value now, if you can dollar cost average, add to your position as the price goes down, when it comes back up to 50, 60, 70, maybe 80,000, you'll be feeling a lot better about your decision to add to your position at a lower price point. All right. Thanks again for listening, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. If you're not currently a community member, CryptoCache.tech is a site. I do look forward to working with you. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thanks again for your time. See you soon.